Harry, this is a handy book, a 4-1, and I don't know why most the modern handy books always wanted to get covers by artists I think are not good. This is John Rain, and it is a very bad cover, even as a montage. It's just a bunch of stuff thrown together badly. This is Thor's handy book, and it covers a wide range of Thor-related stuff. Things that hadn't received handy book profiles before, or that were in need of an update. And there is a couple that they throw in so people kind of complain that there's not any characters people actually care about in a... Lots of gods and goddesses get their own profile. Back in the 80s, a character like this would have at best a mini profile among the entry for the Olympic gods, and at worst would just have her head, her name, and her first appearance shown. New entry for Fairyland, which still incorporates all the ad maps from the original Andy books. I would say this entry is a bit lacking because there is nothing showing Fairyland's then current location as a floating city over Oklahoma. Spoilers to this character's identity. That's right, it was a woman. Destroyer Droid. One of my favourite 4 bad guys. This is when these Andy books had one artist doing most of the pictures, so you will notice, even to come back here, or all the way back here, they are so much better now. They are not pictures cropped from comics. They give a good static shot of the character and their design. And some even better than the original Andy books is that now we have a style across the board. We didn't have a great Ryan Paul character shot of Batman from the Defenders right next to an abstract Mark Beaver picture of Coke and Pepsi. These are all the people or things that have piloted the Destroyer Droid. Characters that do not warrant their own profile. Think of this as like in the Ad Andy books, when they would have those great tables with the heads on them. Arguably, I would say Donnie Wall-Blake should be here, because the Donnie Wall-Blake that controlled the Destroyer Droids wasn't actually the real Donnie Wall-Blake, but it was a construct created by Anthony Hopkins to guilt Thor. That construct should be depicted here with these other people. It is mean to give us a profile for the Enchanters, but not one for Amanda the Enchanter. Or even, I'll tell you who could have done with a profile in here. The one modelling herself off of Amanda the Enchanter in The Young Masters. They could have even used her profile to establish her origin, since it was never done in a comic. I have a fanfiction idea for her origin that you will never ever hear. Disappointed to say that we only have a profile here for Fafnir, but not a profile for the other character with the same name. By the way, with a lot of the Fairyland names, like Fafnir, I'm not bothering looking up how to say them. I'm just saying them how I think a Geordie would say them. Oh, different like this. they started doing entries for stories and events. Not a fan of that. I think they started doing them in 2007. They actually did one handybook that was just stories like this. It had a terrible Sally LaRue cover, because apparently him and John Rain are the only ones who can do handybook covers. John Rain, by the way, is the fake name that Johnny Vegas uses for his personal Facebook profile to avoid stalkers and fans. I hope I have helped them out with that. See, some of these names just make no sense to anyone but me. It is Rinamia the Flame from the 1993 Thor annual. Or Erinmia if you want to be correct. But who wants to be correct? Not an awful character, and we finally get to see a normal artist draw Mia. Before she became Aaron Jason's personal wank bank of superpowers. Here is Natalie Portman. From David Peters' Hulk run, this is Tom Hiddleston's son, that never got as much use as he probably deserved. Tom Hiddleston, having a son, should be more well known, but he has never even appeared in a Thor story. He was in David Peters' Hulk, and then he was in Chow's War and Hercules Man, and then he was in David Peters' Extra Factors. Why hasn't this character been used more, or even shared a scene with his father or uncle? His uncle being Thor. I am ganning to say something I might have said before. For a decade and change, I have honestly thought David Peter should write Thor. He usually treats the fairyland stuff with respect, but he isn't as beholden to the myths as some other writers, and he brings some fresh twists to it. I don't think he will ever write Thor. I think he is very ill these days. Maybe some Romani traveller cursed them. Galactical Guardians enemies. What are they doing here? I'll tell you what they're doing here. Half of them was introduced in Thor Annual 7. That is what. The rest came earlier in giant-sized Defenders 3. Something like this, where they just do a quick rundown of their stats. I didn't like that. It obviously worked better when it was the mini profiles in the 80s. But here, without any images, it's just very dry. There is a hot, mean bitch MILF. This is one of the only profiles in here without art by the one artist. This picture is cropped from comics. Never quite understood why they would do that for one or two profiles when they could just get that artist to draw them all. And here is another one, and a painfully bad one. This needed a new picture drawn for it. This one at least looked a bit right for a profile. This is at an angle, and the focus is on the casket of ancient winters, not Christopher Eccleston. They would have been better off just using the artwork from the original Handybooks, in fact. That would be much better. This will blow your mind. This is Gok 1's first ever Handybook profile. It took him this long to get one. And didn't rush to your hard handybooks to look in a bid to try and prove me wrong. It is a solid fact. This is Gok 1's first profile. Here is one of those incipient teams of young godlings that I cannot tell apart. I'm burning, I'm burning, I'm burning for you. Sorry, I was just reading from an unpublished Anthony Davis Defenders story there. For update, very brief. When did Thor start wearing these gloves? Originally, this design didn't have gloves. He's not even wearing gloves on the cover. There is Kid 90s Thor. Art here is by Ron French. It comes straight from his miniseries. And dare I say, it is at an angle. There is that horrendous joke design that I suggested ruined this character having any actual life in comics. I skipped some profiles like Gimli and one of the new gods. But here we have the half-page entries at the back. Characters that are more minor and didn't have enough to fill a full page. Like Scourge Victim Mega Drive. Hey kids, you love playing your video games, don't you? But have you ever seen a video game that could play you? Of course I think Satan's son should meet this character at some point. A woman as Thor? You're having a laugh. That's never going to last. Help. Help. My Handbook has appendicitis. There are a lot of nobodies floating around fairyland. And here we have a likely incomplete list of them with some pictures for identification. Really, this is where they should be bringing in and bringing back the tables with heads. Oh shit, we got a little bit of room at the bottom. Just throw a bit of vaguely related art down there. Contents on the back with a Jack Quimby picture of Thor for some reason. That was the Thor Handbook and it's not bad. Amanda the Enchanter is on the cover and then doesn't have a profile in here, so it is a bad Handbook. Most of the characters on the cover don't have entries, so I think most people buying this would be annoyed by that. Actually, let us count this. 5 characters on this cover have profiles. Shocking. And it's not that there aren't characters you can put on this cover that people recognise. Hold on, I'll need to do some more counting here. Right, there are 14 characters here on this cover, and 5 of those have profiles. So that means I need to find a total of 9 characters that they could have on the cover instead of the ones who are not in this Handbook. And this is going to be fucking easy. Here is number 1. She can go on the cover. Maybe near the back because she isn't the most recognisable, but she did have a meaningful presence in 90s Thor's stories. 2, maybe. I'm not going to say Arinamia, but here is definitely a 3rd. 4, 5, 6, maybe. 7, definitely. 8, possibly. And finally 9. So in conclusion, again, I think I could do something better than someone else. 7 thumbs up.